All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Chanda Branch, and I am pleased to introduce myself to you all as the Mommy Caster, the founder and the cultural creative for Modern Black Mommy. I want to say to you all, Habari Gani, y'all. How are you? What's the news? That is one of the traditional greetings for Kwanzaa, which we are here to celebrate tonight. I'm so excited. I have a couple of really amazing guests. I have Minister Edith Berry with me, and I have Corey Brandt with me, and we are going to be engaging in the first night of a Kwanzaa celebration. Um, but I know many of you don't really know and understand fully what Kwanzaa is, and that might be part of the reason that you're tuned in tonight. So I'm going to take just a few minutes and give us the basics, right? Because I really hope that this live stream series is going to inspire you to learn about and institute Kwanzaa as a new tradition in your home. I remember the Kwanzaa tradition and the celebrations that I used to go to when I was younger. They were huge and they were loud and there were people everywhere and there was food everywhere. And it was a really, really big deal. And it's 2020 and we know that's just not possible. But I did not want to let this holiday get past us without acknowledging the power of what this holiday is and what it represents. So I've gathered, like I said, an amazing group of folks, not just for tonight, but for the next 7 nights. We are going to be gathered right here at 7:30 to celebrate Kwanzaa together virtually, which I'm really, really excited about. Here are the basics. Like I said, here's what you need to know right now so that you won't be lost in the first 15 minutes of what this all is, right? So Kwanzaa was founded in 1966 by Dr. Malana Karenga as a way to bring together the Black community just after the tumultuous era of the Civil Rights Movement. What he understood was that African Americans needed to celebrate family and community and culture, and they needed to do that through the lens of a traditionally African viewpoint, right? So the principles and the ways that are very African in nature that he felt that we had gotten away from. So he lifted up this holiday as a way to celebrate and get back to those cultural roots. Everything about Kwanzaa is celebrated in sevens. There are 7 days. There are 7 symbols. There are 7 principles. So all the things are, and if you are into numerology, you know that 7 is also the number of completion and order. So that's exciting that, everything was done very intentionally. It's not just, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about some stuff and we're going to it's not that at all. Everything is so meticulously planned out and very intentional. And I think you're going to see that in line with the guests that we have for each of these nights. This is not a religious holiday. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way too. This can be celebrated by Christians, by Muslims, by anybody at all. We're all getting together to celebrate general life principles. So there's nothing innately religious about it. And it was created for African Americans by African Americans to be celebrated throughout the Pan-African diaspora. That means anywhere where Black folks are. Okay. But this is a modern celebration, and I want to make it clear that we welcome everyone. We want our allies here. We want our friends to come in, our non-Black allies especially, so that you can learn, so that you can gain an understanding of what we as Black people set as our values, what our struggles have been and continue to be, and how you can be an effective ally going forward into the next era of greatness for our people, right? So more than 50 years later, we still find ourselves in a place of civil strife and unrest, right? There are still things happening with the Black community that were happening when this holiday was founded more than 50 years ago, right? As a Black woman, and especially as a Black mommy, I find that troubling. And so I sought out ways of, how do we stop this cycle? How do we advance ourselves and our culture and our families? How do we work so that the next generation does not have to go through what we've been through? And in all of my research, it pointed me back to Kwanzaa as a celebration. And so that was why I started digging into this research. Um, I started reading, and the reading became writing and became research. And I wrote a book. And I was amazed at myself because I started genuinely from a place of just wanting to do something for my own family that was going to be meaningful and impactful. And what I came up with is Your Guide to a Modern Kwanzaa Celebration. And you can get a copy of the book yourself. We'll tell you where to get all of that a little bit later. But it's something that I'm really proud of because I feel like it's going to help a lot of families. It's going to help a lot of communities. And if anybody knows me, you know that writing the book wasn't enough. I had to figure out another way to get it out into the world. And one of the things that I said to myself was, a lot of really amazing people who live these principles and who walk out these principles in their everyday life. And I asked my good friend Lauren at RDU on stage if we could borrow her platform. And she did not hesitate. She absolutely said, no, I want to amplify your voice. I want to amplify what you're doing. I think it's important. And she never hesitated once. So I want to thank RDU on stage for allowing us to use your platform to move out into the world and into the space. I'm really excited that we're here, and I hope that the audience that you're bringing, along with the new audience that Modern Black Mommy is bringing, are going to be able to work together on lots of future projects as well. So it is the tradition in Kwanzaa that on the first night we begin by asking the permission and the blessing of our elders. And I say elders in the case that you're about to see. I say it very gingerly. Okay. One of the jobs of the elders is to start the celebration by engaging us in memory of our past, by asking us to remember those who have gone before us through the pouring of libation in a ceremony called Tambiko. So this evening, the honor of pouring libation and leading us in that Tambiko ceremony goes to my dear friend and a woman who is well respected in the community, who has a long history with Kwanzaa celebrations. She is Minister Edith Berry. Now, Minister Berry is a singer, dancer, actress, playwright, but she is also the contributing writer and the social media strategist and blogger for TCP magazine. Does that sound like anybody's elder to you? I'm telling you. We're going to talk more about Minister Berry's experience and achievements, but at this time, I want to yield to her and give her time to lead us in this ceremony. Now, there are some specific moments in this ceremony that we will invite you to speak the names of your own loved ones, those people who are important in your lives who have transitioned and gone over. And there are some places where we will invite you to lift up your concerns. And this is a group ceremony. So even though we are all participating from our own places, feel free to lift up your voices and call out those names. But also, because this is a modern celebration, feel free to drop those names in the chat and we will see them as well as hear them. So at this point, Minister Berry, the libation, please.
Thank you, Chanda Branch, for that introduction. This is in honor of the ancestors, those who were family and friends, as well as those who were collective or cultural icons. I will speak their names and name their legacy among those remaining. One of them being Baba Chuck Davis. I would like to say the name of my mom, Helen Berry, my dad, Rowan Berry, and my brother, Kerwin Berry, who are no longer with us, but they are with the ancestors. We gather at this moment to celebrate Kwanzaa. With the permission of our beloved elders, we begin the evening with the pouring of the libation. As we pray and invoke the blessing of our ancestors, remember, this is a solemn, serious moment, one that requires your focus and positive intentions. Be present in this moment as we pay homage to those who have paved the way for us. Here and now, before our all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-present Creator, we pour. For our ancestors, those who we knew, loved, and respected on this earth, those related by blood, those acquainted by the heart, and those who were part of the cultural landscape, we call out their names. And at this time, you can call out those names of those significant people that have impacted your lives and in your families. Call out their names.
Sadie Carlton, Lola Branch, Uncle Will,
Herman Gore, Ruby Ford,
for the ancient ones who knew our native land, our motherland, we pour. For those who perished in the Middle Passage, we pour. For those toiled as enslaved humans, whose names we may never be able to call, we pour. For those who were bound in the grips of Jim Crow and made a path for us, nonetheless, we pour. For the freedom fighters and those who dedicated themselves to the ideal of equality, we pour. For those who have lost their lives in unjust ways to violence, substance abuse, and for those who lost their lives before they began, we pour. For those who only recently left this earth to join the ancestors, we pour. For the present moment of celebration and all who are gathered in reverence to commemorate our collective past and recommit to a better way of living, we pour. For our children and our children's children and their children after them, we pour. May we build well now so that they can someday pour for us. For the issues in our hearts, spoken aloud at this moment, we pour.
Ashe.
And now we return to the beginning, to the Almighty Creator, where all things begin and end in time. We pour and we say,
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Thank you, Minister Barry. Y'all, I had a hard time writing that ceremony. You can find that ceremony published in the book, Your Guide to A Modern Kwanzaa Celebration. And that was revelatory. There it is. That was revelatory for me. Writing those words and pulling that together really pulls you on a journey from our inception, from our very beginnings, all the way through our struggle. I tried to find and highlight and bring forward those moments where we as a people struggled. And though I know there are moments that we've missed, that ceremony could be an hour long by the time you put everything together. But I feel like that really acknowledges and puts us on a path to really understanding why we're here and what we're doing, so that we can indeed build well and allow our children to be able to pour for us someday. So thank you, Minister Barry, for pouring that libation. I want to hold you. I want you to stay around because I'm going to involve you in some conversation around tonight's topic. But I want to introduce our other guests more specifically. Um, some of you may already know the gentleman on the screen as Council Member Corey Branch, or the Honorable Corey Branch. He is the Raleigh City Council member for District C, and he just finished a 3-year stint as mayor pro tem. From those of you not from Raleigh, you may recognize the term as vice mayor. Corey is a native of Raleigh and has served the city in numerous ways. While working at AT&T as an associate director for technology, Corey serves as District C counselor, and is working to improve the availability of housing of those from all incomes, a modern and reliable transit system, and programs to aid and assist in the development of our youth and young adults of Raleigh. Corey's a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, as indicated by the numerous plaques behind him. And he is an alumni of North Carolina State A&T University, which he also never lets anybody forget. Corey, most importantly, to me anyway, is my husband. This is the man that I'm married to, and he is the father of the light of our lives, little Miss Carly Branch, who is hanging out with her grandma so we can actually broadcast this show tonight. So I want to welcome Corey and thank him for coming in to be one of my special guests. He's been tremendously supportive as I have launched my new brand, Modern Black Mommy, and that's also part of the reason he is here on this specific night. Again, everything with intention. So the first night of Kwanzaa calls for us to lift up the principle of Umoja, or unity. So I'm looking forward to this conversation with the two tremendous individuals that we have here. But first, I am going to light our first candle on the Kinara. Now, again, I'm going to keep saying this. This is a modern celebration. So behind me, I'm going to step to the side so that you guys can see. I have a modern Kinara set up here. Individual little votives of tea lights. I know a lot of my friends who got the book were saying, I don't even know where to find a Kinara. I said, go to the Dollar Tree and get you some candle holders. Get you some, this is modern, right? So the other thing is we have a munchkin in the house. So candles are not always the thing to have just lit and lying around. So I am using LED electronic snap-on, snap-off tea lights. If the elders don't mind, I am going to proceed with the modern lighting of my modern Kinara in my child-safe home. All right, so Habari Gani, which simply means what's the news? The news is Umoja. Umoja means unity. Umoja means to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. And with that, I will light this candle. There's a very specific order to lighting your Kinara. I can see it glowing, maybe you can in the light. You always start with the center candle, the black candle, because the black represents the people. So Our Kwanzaa celebration is officially underway, having had our libation and having lit our first candle. It's time to talk about unity. So um, there are several aspects to this, which I love that they are very specifically defined and that we have space to talk about what unity looks like in different contexts for us as Black people. So let's start with unity in the family. Y'all are beginning to see why my husband is on the show tonight, right? So unity in the family. Corey, you and I are both busy professionals. We have busy uh, social lives. We have lots of engagements that we partake in. Pre-COVID, it was a little crazy. And even now, post-COVID, all that's happened is all of the meetings that we would have been ripping and running to in different places are now online. So the setup that we have tonight is fairly indicative of what tends to happen on a normal evening in our house. We tag team, and Corey will go to the office and do a meeting while I'm out front, and I'll do a meeting out here, and then we'll pass the baby off and do the next meeting, and then pass the baby back, and I'll give her dinner while daddy's doing the other meeting, and then he'll finish dinner while. Let's just talk for a second about what it really takes to
Yeah.
work together.
I mean, when it comes to family, the first step is communication. We talk, and the interesting part is because we're always in the same house. Sometimes she gets tired of me. You get tired of me, but we still find a way to work together. We're blessed because we have friends and family that are local. Your parents just moved here in July from Florida up to North Carolina.
Which
I'm a
is
native. My parents have been here, and we can always call on them to help with Carly as we're running. Um, but it's just working and communicating. We have a Google Calendar that we help remind. Okay, let me be honest for everyone. We have a Google Calendar that I help remind Shonda what she's doing and what I'm doing, so that we can, make sure that we don't miss that time for each other and with our daughter.
Mhm. I have to agree. I think that the communication part is it's the number one piece. If you don't talk to each other, you don't know what the other is doing or going through. And it's not just about showing up for appointments. It's also about showing up for each other, and each other's mental health. There was a period during during the shutdown when we first, were trapped in the house, and I had him and I had the baby and um I had work stuff going on, and I was still trying to people in the social sphere and um some of the other activities that I'm part of. We were trying to figure out, how do we go forward? What does this look like? We hadn't quite ironed it out. Nothing was smooth. And at one point I realized I had not left the house in 4 days. And my husband was like, we need to talk. Do you realize you haven't left the house in 4 days? That we're gonna just get in the car and ride around for a little bit. Everything was shut down. There was nowhere to go. We couldn't like just pop in and have dinner somewhere. But it meant the world to me that my husband saw me and recognized that, like, she's not okay right now. And he communicated with me in a way that said, okay, look, we're going to be in this for a minute, and we're going to be in this together, so let's do something about it. Minister Barry, I want to pull you into the conversation because, unity as a family for you, we were just saying that my family has sort of all converged here in Raleigh. I know that you made a leap and moved here from up north. So how do you maintain unity in your family, even with that distance between you? Uh-oh, let's get you unmuted. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, with the distance, yes, that has been challenging. My son and my grandchildren are all in New York City, and I had not seen them for over a year, have not been back up there since my mom passed away last October. And, we have to communicate by, telephone. We have video chats or duo chats on the phone. And that really works because you can connect and you can visually see, and we touch bases all the time. Mentally, being down here, I feel like in one sense I was kind of like by myself, but I also call the people that I've met, they're my family also. And so to me, it's not my biological family, but we being unified, we as a people, we have to come together and be as a family. So your friends are your family. And I have church family, and I have friends that are family, and I'll call them cousins and sisters and that kind of thing. And that really softens that emptiness that I don't have when I can't connect to visibly or physically see my family.
Yeah, that's important. And I know with the shutdown, a lot of people have experienced the same thing. If you weren't living in a situation where you had physical distances from your family, using these technology tools, using Zoom and some of the other things that we have now is new. And so for folks who have been separated from their family, what I'm hearing is that they're a little bit more used to having to communicate that way, having to talk on the phone or use FaceTime. And so that was a little bit less of an impact for them. But let's talk about this shutdown more specifically. Do you think that for some families, this could have been a blessing in disguise? All of this extra time and close proximity. Do you think that for some folks, this has been a good thing? Let's talk about that.
I think it's a blessing in disguise because a lot of the family time was really lost. And I guess I'm looking at the family time that I had with my parents growing up as a child. We all came to sit at the dinner table and have dinner. We're not going to KFC and Chick-fil-A and all these other places and, run and go and eat. But we sat down as a family at the table and we had time to talk. And I think that people had to really relearn about how to do that. And also even connecting with, whether it's a spouse or with your children, you forgot to kind of have that family time of just communicating and talking with them, because everybody stops talking because they're basically, playing a game and doing other things, but nobody's talking to one another. Now they don't have that choice. They are in the house, whether it's remote learning, hybrid learning, they have to come together and communicate with one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think too, it allows people to work on projects that they probably would have never worked on before together. I know there's some things we've done here at our house that we've worked on. I have family members who I have a cousin who just graduated from A&T, and I know her mom and her worked on her she shed while they were doing remote learning and things of that nature. But I think there's a lot of projects and things that families able to do. But also, unfortunately, coming together has brought a dark side. Because we also have to realize that domestic violence is real.
Yes.
And it's serious. And I think that has brought some of that to light, that we have to find better services to deal with mental health and things of that nature overall. So though it's brought us together, it shed a lot of light on where we're weak as a community. And hopefully as we work to unify, we can close some of those gaps and disparages.
Yeah, I totally agree on that, because those things were existing before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the pandemic, it acerbated.
Yeah.
And more pronounced, and because there was nothing in place before.
Yeah.
That support system.
I love that segue to bring us into talking about unity in the community. That is the next thing for us to take a look at. It's the next portion of that definition of unity that's given to us by the founder, Malena Karanga. So in our community, it just seems to me like we say unity all the time, but I don't think we really have a clear grasp and understanding of what that looks like. What tangibly can we do or work on to bring unity to the community?
For me, I think the first step is learning to agree to disagree. I was here thinking over the holidays and over the last couple of months, a lot of times we all agree on the what. The what sort of things that we say we need: housing, good quality schools, being safe, feel safe with the police, making changes. The issue comes to the how. And how do we do it? What I may feel is a good step, Miss Edith may not feel it's a good step. But we both agree we need to do something. And I think we have to find ways to talk with each other and to each other and not at each other. That's where we're going to find that unity and coming together. And it's not easy. Some days like you and I trying to figure out, now, not to belittle other issues, but I'm gonna use this simple example. What are we going
I
to
know
eat?
exactly where he's going.
What are we going to eat? For some people that could cause a lot of drama. But it
Some
comes down
people.
to we both know we want to eat, and we know how to eat, but where are we going? Where are we getting the food from? And I think a lot of times that's what it comes down to, the real small things that causes us to be dysfunctional as a community, that we have to find ways to come together. And COVID-19, even though it's made us still and it's opened, our eyes to a lot of issues, one thing that it challenges us is that coming together to talk through these challenges. So I think that's the next step. If we get past COVID-19 and learn to live, how do we come together and unify and work through these challenges? How we bring all of our churches and all of our pastors together? There's groups that have come about in the last 4 years, and there's groups that's been here 40 years. How do you bring those organizations together? Because at the end of the day, they all really want the same thing, but it's the how.
That's right.
I think something that's frustrating for me is when you know that you already have these organizations and they're all doing the same thing, and it's hard to get all of those organizations on the same page. Think for a second about all the organizations in the community that you have to address specifically. Let's just make one up: hunger, okay, or food security. You have all these organizations that are focused on the same thing, and just like Corey was saying, the how they get there is where they diverge. You have some that only work through schools, and you have some that work through municipalities, and you have some that work through churches, and they just sort of don't ever get together and really talk through a comprehensive plan. And I use hunger as an example, but there's any number of other issues that you could say the same thing to. Miss Edith, I know that you've been working in the community for a long time, and you've probably seen more than Corey and I. So I just want to hear what your take on all of this is.
Okay, it's you know it's really overwhelming because there are so many things that are going on. There are some groups that are really doing some phenomenal things. Sometimes I don't know whether people's schedule just don't want to take the time to get together to blend. Some people just want to do their own thing, and whatever recognition they get for that, they get for it. But to me, unity in the community starts in the community, and it has to begin with me. And I know that I have reached out to people, telling them where they could go, to get food distribution places. I'll even tell them some of the things that they can get, and they don't follow through. And sometimes I'll get a call saying, we have all this food, and they're trying to get rid of it, and they're on Facebook Live, and I don't know, the people don't want to go out because a lot of times people are really just embarrassed to say that they're in need. And it's realistic that they feel ashamed that they can't provide for their children or their family. And sometimes there's been times when I have gone and just given and helped out to give things that I have from food distributions that I have gone to, just for them to have, for them to feed their children. And then I'll give them the schedule. Oh, you can go to my church, Poplar Springs Christian Church. We have food distribution here. And some of them have been going and have thanked me for it. But for some reason, I don't know why, there's just difficulty in just trying to get maybe one common day, one common time for us all to come together. A lot of people don't know the people in their community. I only know it through walking, because I do that all the time. I've met a lot of people on the Neuse River Trail because I bicycle every single day, and everybody talks. It doesn't matter what color, what denomination, what gender. I have really met a lot of good, friendly people, but you have to be in the community to meet the community, to know what they're going through, to talk. So you got to be out there.
That's wisdom. That's wisdom. I just love that you get right to the heart of it with two things that I heard you say. Number one is recognition. I feel like maybe some of the reason we can't come together is because everybody wants credit for the end product. And I think that culturally, we have to stop looking for the trophy. We have to stop looking for the pat on the back and the certificate and the reward I think maybe we need to throw some of that out of the window and just focus on getting the work done. And the other one is the shaming. That there's a lot of shaming that goes on in our community, and we talk behind each other's backs, and you talk about, girl, did you see so and so down there at the I'm like, oh my goodness, yikes. It's just one of those things. I'm going to press pause for 2 seconds. Our producer is telling us that we have someone, a dear friend who is watching with us, Miss Gail Turner from the original Broadway cast of The Wiz. She's watching, and she says hello to Edith. So we want to acknowledge her. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just glad for the shout out. As we talk about shout outs and praise and recognition. I think that those are two things that you raise, Miss Edith, that are amazing, and I think that bears more conversation. That bears more conversation. So we also touched on the technology piece. So a lot of our friends and family and communities have been connected all of a sudden in new ways, and I'm finding that there are people who would not have been able to participate or to be part of what's happening in the community if not for our streaming and for Zoom and for Facebook Live and being able to connect in these technological ways. If they had to get in a car and drive to a place and sit for a meeting, it would be difficult. So what do you think we need to hold on to in our post-COVID moment? Because I'm declaring and decreeing that we are moving beyond this. But what do we need to hold on to? What have we learned as far as the technological pieces that we maybe need to keep and institute even as we go forward that'll keep people connected?
You're asking.
I'll let you go ahead.
Corey.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. One of the components that I'm looking at is that to me, it seemed like it opened up a big wide world that has been there all the time. And we have more opportunities to connect with others through through technology. I know that my Zumba trainer, Jordan, was really kind of upset because we could not go to the physical place. But I kind of like doing Zumba at home because all I have to do, I don't have to leave the house, get in the car, drive, when I can just come in my bedroom, get my sneakers, put up my laptop, and I'm ready to go. I feel less intimidated because I don't want everybody looking at me if I'm not moving the right way and doing the right things. So I have to say that has really, really opened up a big wide door for other people now to kind of connect. We've done group watching movies together, eating popcorn, and having discussion without ever leaving the house. So it's making something that was kind of bad in one sense kind of good, because now we're connecting with all different people. Again, that's still reaching out to another community that I probably would not have reached out to before in other areas, not just where I live. Because see, sometimes people think your community is just the block that you live on. That is not what we're talking about. Community is everybody. Is everybody coming together. And when we come together, that's where we have that word commune.
Yep.
That's how we get connected.
Yeah, and I would have to agree. It's broadening the scope and reaching people. I think we have to continue to post COVID when as some of my friends say, when outside opens back up, and we come together, we have to take these tools and bring them with us. In our meetings. I think for churches, it's opened a lot of churches up to how they can reach people in the community, and sharing their faith and their religions is open. I think the city up, to ways that we reach people and share information. Sometimes people realize tools are there, but they're not used until they're forced to use them. And COVID has forced us to use technology because, I know my parents and I know others that have said, what you on that internet for? What are y'all doing this for? And I don't need a computer. I don't need a laptop. Well, this has shown how having those tools keeps people connected. And that's what we have to continue to do, but also not lose that common touch. We still have to be able to touch people and meet people. But again, technology still allows you to see someone face to face and eye to eye and have those conversations. And you can still pick up some body language that you can't just normally pick up on the phone. So we have to find ways to bring the two together where you have a meeting and you're still streaming it and you're still having that interaction, or you do a little bit of both. So, I look forward to it. I think you're going to see a lot of people when we have family reunions. All those that can make it will, but those who can't make it, they're still going to find a way to engage them into that. And that's what the way I see technology has brought us, so we can commune and unite.
You see what he did there with commune and unite in the community? He's clever. He's clever. So to speak to some of what you all are saying, I want to lift up specifically. I've heard from some folks with disabilities who this is what being house ridden is what they know. This is their normal, and they're always this way. So when the outside world was happening without them, they really felt left out and isolated, and being able to join these communities via Zoom or be able to see some faces or be able to be included has made a huge difference in their lives. And then I also want to lift up distance. So I've been able to be part of the Black Mommy's breastfeeding group in Detroit. I would not have been able to make those meetings every 6:30 on Tuesday nights and just talk with other mommies who look like me and are encountering the same struggles and experiences that I am. I wouldn't have them as a resource if it had not been for them shifting to a Zoom meeting and sending the link out and inviting folks from everywhere to be a part of it. And so there are lots of resources that have opened up the world to us in a new way. And I agree with Corey. I think I want to see a hybrid when we go back, so that, you know, if I can jump in the car and get there, I have that option. But if it's for some reason on that particular day not going to work for me to be with them in person, I don't have to miss out on what's going on. I also love what Ms. Edith said about the watch parties. That's something that I instituted with my classes. When I show them plays and things that I found on YouTube as performances, I have them do a watch party in the chat box. And it is so clever how these kids are and what they pick up on and what they see. And it really has given me insight and let me get to know students that I've never met in person, because I can, you know, watch what they're commenting in the watch party. And it's been a new experience, but again, I think that's something that I probably will hold on to as we go forward. So let's get to the bubbles are getting bigger and bigger. We talked about our families and our communities. What are we going to do about unity as a race of people, as Black people? How are we going to finally get on the bus and drive it down the road? How are we going to come together? We've got about 15 minutes to solve this one. Should be plenty of time.
We'll just solve this 15 minutes.
Right. How do we get on the bus? That's interesting. I think it's going to come down to relationships. It's going to come down to commonalities. You know, that's you first have to get people to realize Black brings us together, one, but also look at everything under that: Black fathers, married fathers, single fathers, widow fathers, you know, mothers, same thing, grandparents, aunts, uncles, you know, those that like sports, those that don't like sports. You know, sometimes you have to get one or two people together that have something in common. Then you have another group of people that have something in common. And then within those groups, they realize, hey, there's a lot of other things we have in common as well. It's really getting to commonality, and bringing us together, and realizing too that we have different skill sets. How do we utilize those skill sets to help address the challenges that pre-exist my 42 years here on earth? You know, housing has been an issue, you know, forever. You know, income has been an issue forever. How do we work to solve that? And I think I'm seeing groups that do that in the community coming together. You know, I know 3 young men that have formed a group, Raleigh Rays. They all had different things in their life, but the 3 of them came together, and they're trying to look at economic impact and educating our young people in STEM. We have individuals in the community that are trying to help give people second chances to life that have been caught up in the judicial system. It's finding those commonalities. So now you have a group that is looking at jobs, you have a group that's having trouble with jobs, and you have a group that's trying to bring the two together. It's not one silver bullet, and it's not going to be one bus. We're probably going to have multiple buses, but the question is, what direction are we going? It kind of goes back to the beginning when I mentioned the how. We know what the whats are. We know the issues. The how is where are we trying to go? What's the end product? We have to focus on the how, and then we figure out all these different whys and wins. You know, I see, and just so those that know, my wife's an English teacher, so she's laughing when I'm talking about when, what, why, where, and how, and all of that. So, and I'm an engineer, so don't ask me to write a thing. But it's bringing all of those things together and finding a common direction. We got to start figuring out what's our end point, and then we can figure out the paths, because it's going to be different paths because people are coming from different areas.
I concur with Corey about those findings. One of the things I hear a lot is about when are we going to return? When, there's a W word, when are we going to return back to normal? I don't want us to return back to normal, because that's where the problem is. We need to get to a new normal, because when I looked at things as, for example, in the theater, I've been seeing a lot of things on Facebook about some of the prejudices and things that were going on in the theater. I see things that were going on in the school system for our young people, as far as training and learning and standardized tests and following the curriculum and then a new curriculum. We don't need to go back to the normal. We need to develop a new normal. From the things that I've done, from my background, coming from New York and moving here, I've always been on the bus. I've always been riding, and I'm just continuing to move forward. Just because I am retired from the school system, I am still educating students. I still do volunteer in the community. I have done it in Nash Rocky Mount School System and in Wake County. I've done readings, and then all of a sudden, one of the teachers at Southeast Raleigh Elementary School asked me to come back so that the students would have practice doing interviews. And the time I was supposed to come back, bam, the pandemic hit. And so therefore now I'm not even able to really go back in. But I've been on the bus, I've been riding for many, many years. I'm not going to be like Corey, and I'm not saying 42. I'll say 42 plus. How about that?
I love it.
And one thing I want to say too is, sometimes in being on the bus, we have to know when and where it's time to switch bus drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we have the same driver too long, and sometimes we have someone who's not ready to drive the bus. So we have to find that balance of the experience as well as the new ideas, and bringing the two together, and just working together. That's community right there, of taking the lessons learned and new ideas and bringing them together to, again, get to the end. That's what we have to work towards.
You have to know where's your destination, where you're going. It's nice that I think Shonda said you and her, she was in the house for 4 days, and you just ride around to get out of the house, but you weren't really planning going anywhere. Right now, we have to plan a destination.
Yep.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant. And we talk about this new normal, and I think that's what I'm itching to do. I'm itching to help us define what this new normal is. What does it look like? What are the tangible items? What can we knock out? What's the low-hanging fruit that we can grab it and just, we got this, let's do this now. And we can focus on the bigger things. What do we know is going to be a long-term project or a long-term goal? And what do we really want to see? How are we developing our leaders? How are we training them? And how are we transitioning that leadership? Because, it's one of those things that, like Corey was saying, the bus driver's been driving in circles, and we keep telling them, no, that's your fourth left. Stop turning left. We've got to think about all of those kinds of things. And I also feel like one of the things that really inspires me about Kwanzaa, and that I really seek to lift up, and why this program is so important in the book, getting that out of my head and into the world was so important, is because I feel like that future needs to be very Black centered. It's got to be Afro centered, because the principles that we have gotten away from are the things that have worked for us in the past. The way that we functioned and the way that we moved in the world was working for us until it got busted up by an outside force. And getting back to that, I think, is going to lead us into that new normal. I think that's going to be something amazing. You guys see the comment down below from Miss Turner. That is tremendous. That's something that on another show, Torn, Theater on Racist Negativity, explores. And after the killing of George Floyd, that program was lifted up by RDU on stage, and my good friend Juan Islar, whose mama is also watching. Hey, mama. That program really digs in with folks from all different races, from folks all throughout the theater community, designers, directors, performers, producers. Everybody gets together on that show, and we have some of those difficult conversations. And I think that is going to be a model that needs to move out into other communities. The theater community is brave enough to have these conversations and to air our dirty laundry and like, this is what's stinking in here, and let's wash it and hang it on the line. We need some other industries, and we need some other areas of the social sphere to get brave enough to air that dirty laundry out as well. So that's my 2 bits on theater. Education can also take note. I want to put that there. There it is.
And government.
And government. You know, I can't think of a specific area or industry that doesn't need to have the hard conversation and to have it publicly, not so that you can be ashamed of it and not so that you can be, run through the mud over it, but specifically so that people who have a different viewpoint or a different understanding can help you work through some of those spots where we see you getting stuck. That's all.
And I know you're short on time, but I really want to put that point where community and allies and building bigger new communities is important to get past these. It's hard to attack and have negative thoughts of someone you don't know. And we have to get back to knowing our neighbors, knowing people. And just knowing them doesn't mean you're going to always agree. I've seen it. I've seen examples of people that I know have worked together, loved each other, called people's relatives mama and daddy and this, that, and the other, that now don't talk to each other. And I think we got to find ways to get past that. We all get hurt at some point. We all have pain. The question is, how do we heal? And I think a lot of the reasons why we don't have that community is because we haven't healed. And a lot of that healing comes to communication. So I just wanted to touch that. It's been on my heart, and I just wanted to touch that real quick.
Well, and that communication piece brings us right back to the beginning. Yep. We said that that's the building block for unity in our individual families. So why would that not translate throughout? That makes a lot of sense. All right, friends, we've got time for one more, since we've solved the problem of unity for all Black people. So you think that lifting up the principles of Kwanzaa can help to unify Black people? Do you think that this is a great place to start? These 7 principles, and I'll read them off for you so that we can think about them together. But do you think that the 7 principles of Umoja Unity, Kujitochagulia, self-determination, Ujima, collective work and responsibility, Ujamaa, cooperative economics, Nia, purpose, Kuumba, creativity, and Imani, faith. Those 7 things, when taken together, do you really feel like those have the power to bring us together as global Black people?
If we're intentional.
Okay. Well, I believe so, only because I've been following them since, I don't want to say my age, but I've been since birth. Following Maulana Karenga really when he first started it, because that was the thing that we were doing when I was in college in the 70s. And even though we're celebrating Kwanzaa at this time, it's not about just those 7 principles for those 7 days. It has to be followed throughout the entire year. It becomes a part of my life and my being and all the things that I do. So it's not just at this particular time. Yes, we're giving more credence to it because we're doing it now to give recognition, but do it in the course of your life throughout the year.
I agree.
I think that is something that is absolutely vital. And it is a point that I visit and I return to time and time again. This is not just for the next 7 days to talk about and think about. And now we've done that, and let's move on to the way that we were doing it before. This is truly about building a lifestyle. This is truly about a way that you move through the world. So there are lots of amazing comments. I would advise everybody to please, please, please comb back through those comments and really rethink and revisit those. The link for your guide to a modern Black Kwanzaa celebration. I forgot the title of my own book in this moment because I'm so excited. Your guide to a modern Kwanzaa celebration. The link is there. You guys can go and get your own copy. It is not too late just because Kwanzaa has already started. There's amazing information there. You can catch up for the next 6 nights, or you can get it now and study up and be ready for Kwanzaa 2021, which is going to be amazing also. But also, again, it's not just these 7 days that we're talking about. You can look at these and stretch them out and explore these with your family. There are games, there are worksheets, there are journal pages, there are guiding questions, there's all kinds of stuff. Remember, I'm a teacher, so I couldn't just write like all of these paragraphs stacked on each other and flip through them. No, 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 no. There's lots of really good, engaging material in there for you and your family. So as we get ready to conclude, we just hit our hour mark. I'm so excited. The first hour of our Kwanzaa celebration has been spent with such phenomenal guests. Minister Barry, I have to put this one out here. I first met Minister Barry at an audition, and her energy pulled me in right away. I was like, who is this lady with these long arms? And she was like bright, and she was loud, and I think you had on a head wrap at the time. I don't know. Edith was all the things. I was like, I felt good about my audition, but I was like, I hope they cast her too, because I got to get to know this lady. And I was privileged to be on stage with you a number of times. I have always, always, always enjoyed being in the cast and on stage with Miss Edith, as I call her, Minister Barry, to y'all who don't know her yet. But I just want to know what are some of your favorite stage credits? Just give us just a few, because I didn't delve into them because you have so many. But what are some of your favorite stage credits?
Well, of course, Black Nativity, which we just finished doing, and I've been doing that for the past several years. I really enjoyed the time when you and I performed in ragtime, because it seemed like at first I wasn't feeling ragtime, but it seemed like something happened. Somebody started singing at St. Francis of Assisi, and then all of a sudden, all of us started joining in and harmonizing. It was just a warm, fuzzy feeling, but it was just a good camaraderie of creativeness and openness to see the talent that was exhibited in the singing and the dancing, which I love, because I've been dancing all my life and will continue to do so until it's time for me to sit down. But it's I don't know, escape to freedom. I enjoy doing that. There's nothing that I have not been in that I have not enjoyed performing, but I must say that I do like the fact that I have The Show Must Go On, which is my virtual online production. That was something that was inspired, I guess, from my mom since her passing, and just to pull the people that I have performed with and pulling their talents, because growing up as a little girl, that was something that they used to always say at the Ringling Brothers and Bonham Circus and in New York City, that even if some mishap happened, you have to continue going on. So when you asked me to be on this about unity and coming together, that no matter what happens, whether it's pandemic, elections, or whatever, the show must go on.
I love that. I love that. That is the spirit that I have been drawn to. And I have so much love and respect for you, Miss Edith. And I just am so glad that you took a moment to be part of my program. It's amazing. Miss Edith's contact information is down on the screen. Catch her on Instagram. Miss Edith is everywhere, and she gets pictures of everything. So if you are there and you happen to pop up and see Miss Edith, just know that it's very, very likely that you're going to end up on her Instagram feed. It's just very, very likely. Right. Please also check her out. She's a correspondent for TCP Magazine, which is an amazing community resource. She's ready. She's ready. It's an amazing community resource run by another dear friend of mine who I respect very much, Miss Peggy Tatum. And the two of them in tandem is dynamic. They are a powerhouse when they are working together. And I'm very, very honored that you were able to share some time with me. Now, Mr. Branch, you are on the go just as much as Miss Edith is. But I'd like for you to tell us just what are some of the things that you are most proud of in your term as a city council member and as our mayor pro tem until just recently?
Yeah, I think for me, serving the community in which I was born and raised, that's the first step. Showing individuals, young people, young men in the community that you can come back and you can serve where you're born and raised. Outside of that, continue expanding our bus service, working with the council, affordable housing. But the thing that I think I get the biggest joy out of is something that people you won't ever see or hear. It's those individual calls where someone has an issue and I'm able to help them. It's the calls early on during COVID when someone needed help with housing and I was able to connect them and assist them. It's the young people that say, hey, I'm interested in politics. I'd like to have a conversation, more information. I'm able to share my path and my story to them. It's just, those are the things that, bring me the biggest joy and I pray the community sees it. Sometimes, those in the community, we may not always agree, but at the end of the day, the goal is to uplift and make sure this is a better place than what it was when I first started. And I can honestly say, I feel I've done some of that. There's more to be done and we'll see what the future holds.
There he is. So one last question for both of you, and this is something that I'm asking all of my guests throughout the night, and then I promise I will let you all get back to your evening. What book or blog or podcast or person would you like to lift up that we can read or research and expand our knowledge to help us achieve unity, to help us achieve a greater life for ourselves and our families as Black people?
For me, I've read many books of my President Barack Obama. So I just received this new one, The Promised Land. I'm starting to read that one. But also I have this one here, Chase the Lion. A fraternity brother of mine, is by Mark Batterson, mentioned it to me. And if it says, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. So between reading about my President Barack Obama and other books to kind of move me forward, and then on podcasts, there's Eric Thomas. Some know him as the hip hop preacher. He's a motivational speaker out west in California that I hit tidbits and listen to him. But I also have to lift up someone that helps keep me grounded, and they're local, and that's my pastor, Reverend Ben Koliakabiniu at Baptist Grove.
Miss Edith, do you have anything, or maybe a favorite poem, anything at all that we can grab a hold to?
I guess one of the poems that that came to my mind, I guess when you were saying that, and it was something that I did for someone's birthday, one of my friends' son, and we didn't want to be gathered in an inside thing, but because of the pandemic and all the things that were going on with the protests, it's the revolution will not be televised. And to me, that is a power pack, even though it was back then in the 70s, but Here it is, 2020, and it's the same thing going on. To me, that's a power-packed poem that speaks volumes about what's going on right now today. I think those are the kinds of things that we have to continue to read and interact and do in the community. Because one of the things in New York, we always used to have block parties and coming together, and we just need to kind of keep embracing one another, because we don't do that. And, you know, even though we may not be able to touch right now, but embrace the people in your community.
And with that, I am going to thank my two special guests, Miss Edith Berry.
My pastor, Pastor Brooks, I do listen to him. And also a good buddy, friend of mine, Tracy Bell, and Dr. Jamal Bryant, New Birth in Atlanta.
There, well, with that, we'll compile all of these and put together a reading list so that you, as our viewers, look at that, as our viewers can go back to and refer to these. We're going to put them all together and collect them. If you have things that you would like to lift up, please add those to our comments as well. We'll be sure to comb through those and add them to our list as well. And I want to add one thing, and I believe that nothing is coincidence. A dear friend of mine sent out a message just before we went on the air, and it is right on point for this moment. So I'm going to share this, and then we'll say goodnight. Habari gani, Umoja Unity. Keeping it simple. There's power in numbers. Find good people in community. Restore and maintain relationship. Find them at home and in travel and in the world. Love them unconditionally, love their family unconditionally, and ride with them until the wheels fall off. Their problems are yours. Their struggle is your struggle. Struggle dissipates as long as you have breath in your lungs. What's yours is theirs, and theirs is yours. You learn and grow together. Hashtag it's Kwanzaa time. Hashtag super boom. And that comes to us from Bun M Ismail. And we'll add that. It was a post on Instagram that someone shared to me, and it hit home. It hit. This is exactly what we're talking about. Unity, coming together. It's precious and it's necessary. And we have to make the extra effort that it's taking at this point in our society. So I want to thank my special guest, Edith Berry. I want to thank Corey Branch. I want to thank our producer, Lauren Van Heemer, who's in the background somewhere. She's lurking and connecting everything. I want to thank her for opening the doors of RDU on stage to us for the next 7 nights. I want to invite everybody, please, please, please come back and join us tomorrow night, 7:30, right here. And you will be blessed by someone who has blessed me, Miss Karen Arrington, who is the founder of the Ms. Black USA pageant. I happen to be the current Ms. Black USA, the longest reigning, because I claimed the title not in last August, but the August before that. And we've not been able to have the pageant just yet. So I have continued to serve in that capacity. And Miss Arrington has been more than gracious and more than helpful and supportive in making sure that my reign has been effective and effectual, that I'm not just sitting there under a crown and holding the crown up, that I'm actually working and delivering content in the community and working to inspire other women. So I want to please, please, please come back, because she is also the best-selling author of Your Next Level Life. That is an award given to her by the NAACP Image Awards. She's phenomenal. She's dynamic. You're going to have a great time. I cannot wait. I know that there are lots and lots of other amazing guests coming on throughout the week. I don't want to give any spoilers, so I'm going to hold some of those names, and y'all come back and get each little tidbit as we release it. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us on Kwanzaa, A Modern Celebration for 2020. We will see you right back here tomorrow night at 7:30. Thank you, and I love you. Habari gani? Have a blessed Kwanzaa, everyone.